The Calvert County, Maryland Commissioner's Reports is a headline news podcast brought to you in part by the Department of Communications and Media Relations. Commissioner's Reports is a summary of the agenda and outcomes of Board of County Commissioner meetings, related public information, and events. Hello, and welcome to Commissioner's Reports. I'm your host, Kevin G. Schmidt. In this week's Board of County Commissioner meeting, ceremony, Calvert County Sheriff's Office, swearing-in ceremony. Sheriff Cox and members of the Calvert County Sheriff's Office are committed to upholding a time-honored tradition of administering the oath to new sheriff's deputies in the presence of the BOCC following the successful completion of their entry-level training. Sheriff Cox, Assistant Sheriff Payne, and the BOCC recognized Sheriff Deputy Casey G. Hill, Ryan A. Campbell, and Anna M. Morrison with a swearing-in ceremony. Award: Employee Recognition Committee, December 2023 Employee of the Month. The ERC is pleased to announce that Robert Denton, Infrastructure Manager with the Department of Technology Services, was selected as the December 2023 Employee of the Month. Appointments: Neil Reichenberg was appointed to the Calvert County Ethics Commission. Bob Carpenter was reappointed, and Gerald Clark was appointed to the Board of Appeals. Robert Devereaux was reappointed to the Fire and Rescue Commission. Consent: Department of Parks and Recreation, amendment of Memorandum of Agreement with Long Beach Community Association to extend the agreement pertaining to the construction of a living shoreline on the property adjacent to the LBCA at the terminus of Long Beach Drive. This consent item was adopted as presented. In new business, Department of Finance and Budget, Board of Education, Fiscal Year 25 Staff Recommended Capital Improvement Plan. The Department of Finance and Budget has thoroughly reviewed the BOE's FY25 through FY30 six-year Staff Recommended Budget CIP, amounting to $139,739,711. This figure represents a substantial 24% increase compared to the FY24 to 29 six-year adopted budget. The six-year CIP for the BOE prominently features the ongoing replacement project for Northern Middle School, which commenced in FY24 with design costs, and encompasses the construction phase spanning FY25 through FY28. Watch the discussion on the timed agenda available at www.calvertcountymd.gov/meetings. Department of Community Resources, Calvert Library Budget Adjustment for Bookmobile Shelter. The Calvert Library Bookmobile overnight and Sunday parking is behind the Harriet Elizabeth Brown Community Center, located in Prince Frederick, next to the utility building. The county commissioned an architect and engineer to plan a shelter that would protect the bookmobile from the elements. The shelter would protect the vehicle wrap from the deterioration caused by UV rays and from accumulating snow and ice, which keeps the vehicle off the road for longer than necessary. Investing in a shelter will extend the life of the vehicle wrap and keep the vehicle on the road for more days of the year. After discussion, the BOCC approved the budget adjustment and directed staff to receive additional bids and to investigate other locations that may be suitable to construct the shelter. Calvert County Ethics Commission stipend request. In Maryland, each county and municipal corporation shall enact provisions to govern the public ethics of local officials relating to conflicts of interest, financial disclosure, and lobbying. The BOCC adopted the Calvert County Ethics Code and established the Calvert County Ethics Commission in February 1982. Due to the nature and scope of the work associated with the commission, a stipend of $600 per meeting for the chairperson and $500 per meeting for regular members and alternate when applicable is being requested. This request amount aligns with all other paid boards/commissions that are appointed by the BOCC. After discussion, the BOCC opted to defer any decision on this matter while they consider the request and its potential impacts. Old business, Department of Planning and Zoning, Ordinance Update. As mandated in the Comprehensive Plan, the Calvert County Zoning Ordinance, CCZO, is adopted to regulate land uses as part of the effort to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of Calvert County residents. The county's most recent comprehensive plan was adopted in 2019 and amended in 2022. Staff prepared a draft ordinance to bring the zoning ordinance into compliance with the current comprehensive plan and has been reviewing the draft in increments with the Planning Commission and BOCC. As of January 17, 2024, 5 public forums and 7 work sessions have been held to present various chapters for discussion and to receive public comments. The forums and work sessions are scheduled to continue through May 2024, and then staff will be preparing the second draft of the CCZO. Staff provided an update on how the process is going and requested the BOCC identify and discuss any changes that should be addressed in the second draft. After discussion, the BOCC voted and directed staff to set residential density in town centers within the Calvert County Zoning Ordinance update to be limited to 7 units per acre, and any projects on the books to also be limited to 7 units per acre, ahead of the overall adoption of the Zoning Ordinance update. Office of the County Attorney. Status of state legislation. The Commissioner's system is the oldest form of county government in Maryland. All the legislative and executive powers of the county commissioners come from the state legislature approved by the governor. Consequently, commissioner counties only have those powers specifically granted to them and those implicitly needed to exercise those powers. The BOCC has submitted 3 requests for state legislation this session. 1. A request to provide local preference in relation to publicly bid projects, panhandling, and raising the formal bidding threshold. There are also several bills of importance the county attorney shared with the BOCC, including SB 7, is titled Public Safety, Law Enforcement Agencies, Positive Community Feedback, and is sponsored by Senator Bailey. This legislation proposes adding positive community feedback to the list of records that are not considered personnel records for law enforcement officers, requiring the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission to develop a process for citizens to submit positive community feedback, requiring each law enforcement agency to adopt the Uniform Citizen Positive Community Feedback process. A committee hearing was scheduled for January 24th, and the senator requested a letter of support. The BOCC voted and approved sending a letter of support for SB 7. SB 17 is titled, quote, Criminal Law, Crimes Relating to Animals, Conviction and Sentencing, end quote, and is sponsored by Senator West. This legislation proposes establishing that each animal harmed in a violation of a prohibition against animal cruelty is a separate offense, and establishing that a conviction for a crime relating to animals may not merge with a conviction for any other crime based on the act establishing the violation, and that a sentence imposed may be separate from and consecutive to or concurrent with a sentence based on the act establishing a violation. A committee hearing is scheduled for February 1st, and the BOCC directed Calvert County Deputy Director of Public Safety to speak in support of this bill. SB 81 is titled, quote, Higher Education, College of Southern Maryland Budget, end quote, and is sponsored by Senator Ellis. This legislation proposes to reverse the unified budget that was requested by CSM to address the predictability of funding its mission and went into effect in FY22. Prior to this earlier change in law, CSM could only expend the county funds budgeted for it in the county providing those funds, with a few exceptions, such as indirect, and have each of the counties approve the budget for the resident campus, but giving the trustees of CSM unrestricted authority to move funds for both direct and indirect costs among the campuses. A committee hearing was scheduled for January 24th. It appears this bill is to work in conjunction with SB 12, which seeks to increase the number of CSM trustees that reside in Charles County by 2. The BOCC voted and approved sending a letter in opposition of this bill. HB 18 is titled, quote, Education, Reporting Arrests of Students, Altercations, end quote, and is sponsored by Delegate R. Long. This legislation proposes to require a law enforcement agency making an arrest of a student for a reportable offense or an offense related to the student's membership in a criminal organization to report the arrest to the Maryland Center for School Safety, the State Board of Education, and the state's attorney, and requiring the state's attorney to notify the Maryland Center for School Safety and the State Board of the disposition of the offense. The committee has a hearing scheduled for February 1st. HB 81 is titled, quote, Constitutional Amendment, Form of County Government, requiring to adopt Charter Home Rule, end quote, and is sponsored by Delegate Bouchot. This legislation proposes an amendment to the state constitution that requires each county to adopt a charter form of government by December 31st, 2030. A committee hearing is scheduled for February 6th with members of the county's delegation. The BOCC voted and approved sending a letter in opposition of HB 81. HB 366 and SB 49 is titled Restrictions on Use of Solar Collection Systems Alteration, end quote, and is sponsored by Delegate Smith and Senator Elfreth. This legislation proposes to prohibit a restriction that increases the cost of installing a solar collection system by at least 5% over the projected cost of the initial installation, or that reduces the efficiency of the system by at least 10% of the projected energy generation of the initially proposed installation, authorizing a community association to impose reasonable number, size, or manner of placement restrictions on the installation of solar collection systems in common areas, and to install a solar collection system in common areas. HB 361 is entitled, quote, Property Tax Exemption for Community Solar Energy Generating Systems, Limitation on Generating Capacity, Alteration, end quote, and is sponsored by Delegate Jackson. This legislation proposes to expand the exemption from personal property taxes by increasing the size of eligible plants from 2 megawatts to 5 megawatts for community solar energy generating systems. Presentation: Department of Human Resources, the Calvert County Police Accountability Board, PAB, 2023 Year-End Report. Wilson H. Perrin, the chairperson of the PAB, and Scott K. Deacon, chairperson of the Calvert County Administrative Charging Committee, presented the annual report to the BOCC. The presentation included the PAB's accomplishments in 2023 and outlined its goals for the upcoming year. Additionally, the report features collaborative efforts with the Calvert County Sheriff's Office to enhance policing in Calvert County. Policy recommendations include speeding, strip searches, management of HIPAA information, a commission on accreditation for law enforcement agencies for CCSO, global positioning system, use of cell phones or portable electronics in vehicles, body-worn cameras during all interactions with the public on duty, crisis training and de-escalation for suicidal persons, citizen complaint withdrawal process, and audio or video recording of any withdrawn citizen complaints. Department of Economic Development Calvert Health Annual Update by Jeremy Bradford, President and CEO. Calvert Health provided an annual update to the BOCC on the hospital's work to ensure safe, quality care for the community. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Calvert County Board of County Commissioners will be held on January 30th, 2024 at 10 a.m. In other Calvert County local news and events, the BOCC announces the release of Calvert County 2023 State of the County video. The full State of the County video can be viewed online at calvertcountymd.gov/State of the County. The State of the County video highlights county government efforts to sustain healthy economic growth, reinforce public safety and security, ensure adequate health and human services, support public education, make regulatory changes to support smart growth and land use, improve infrastructure, promote community revitalization, engage with citizens, and provide effective and efficient public services. The Calvert County Election Board is notifying voters in the Dunkirk, St. Leonard, and Lusby areas about changes to their polling places. To ensure voters are informed and prepared for the upcoming primary elections, the Election Board is working to keep the community informed about changes affecting the electoral process. Affected voters in the Dunkirk, St. Leonard, and Lusby areas will receive notification by mail within the next week indicating changes to their polling locations. These mailers will be marked with a fluorescent sticker that reads, quote, "Open immediately. Your polling place has changed," end quote. Voters can confirm their polling locations online at www.calvertcountymd.gov/polling places. Voters are encouraged to bookmark www.calvertcountymd.gov/vote for important local voting information. Follow the Calvert County Election Board on Facebook for continuous updates. That concludes our broadcast. The Calvert County, Maryland Commissioners Reports is a headline news podcast. Stay current with other news in Calvert County by following and liking the Calvert County government's Facebook page at facebook.com/Calvert County MD, on Instagram at Calvert Broadcast, on YouTube, youtube.com/Calvert County Gov, and our official website, www.calvertcountymd.gov. www.calvertcountymd.gov. Thank you.